The International Automobile Federation has responded to McLaren's statements regarding Red Bull's recent allegations, and it now appears that the Austrian team will take a more cautious approach before making public claims about the legality of rival cars. Reports suggest that Mohammed Ben Sulayem is considering imposing penalties on any team that makes unfounded accusations, which directly applies to the recent incident where Red Bull questioned McLaren's tire cooling method using water. Will we finally see a stricter attitude toward these indirect provocations? And if that happens, how will Red Bull react if they are no longer free to make such insinuations? The rivalry between McLaren's drivers and Max Verstappen has been a major highlight this season, and Red Bull seems determined to keep the Woking team under pressure using every means available. When technical dominance is no longer certain, teams often look for alternative ways to slow down their competitor, but perhaps this time they may have gone too far. For instance, Christian Horner hinted that McLaren was using water to cool its tires, something Pirelli denied, explaining that using water through the valves is not technically feasible. Instead of responding defensively, Zak Brown offered a concrete solution. If a team wants to make such allegations, it must be willing to bear the financial consequences within the budget cap. That's right. Brown proposed that any Formula One team wishing to accuse another must file an official protest, and the cost of the investigation should be deducted from the accusing team's budget cap. If the claim is confirmed, the amount is reimbursed. If not, the team will likely think twice before initiating a similar process again. Surprisingly, this proposal was accepted by Ben Sulayem. The president of the governing body seems to share a certain alignment with Zak Brown, as this is not the first time they have reached the same conclusion. Speaking on the matter, Brown emphasized that you cannot simply accuse someone without submitting a formal protest, and that this protest must involve a financial commitment. It is worth noting that Horner did not explicitly accuse McLaren, as his vast experience in the sport has taught him how to shape situations to support his own narrative, which is exactly what he is doing. He merely suggested that something in the MCL 39 might not comply with the regulation, based on thermal images the team has in its possession. After the Miami Grand Prix, Horner stated that questions will always be raised in Formula One. He recalled that something similar was said last year regarding the front suspension of Red Bull's car, so it is to be expected. According to him, leading the pack as Red Bull has done in recent seasons naturally brings increased scrutiny. He also highlighted that in many cases, the investigative work comes from the teams themselves, as they have far more resources than the governing body, and there is always internal analysis between rivals. However, Ben Sulayem believes this is not the appropriate behavior for the sport when accusations are being made so openly. Such actions do not reflect the professionalism expected from top-tier teams. Whether people like it or not, this issue needs to be addressed with greater seriousness and should stem from genuine concerns. It is certain that changes will come soon, but whether they are driven by a true desire from Ben Sulayem to improve the sport or just to solidify his role as president of the federation, only time will tell. It is no secret that his leadership is under serious scrutiny, and his time in charge might be limited, as new elections are scheduled for the end of the year. Carlos Sainz, father of the Ferrari driver, has already expressed his interest in taking over the presidency, and his achievements in the Dakar Rally have reportedly earned him the trust of influential figures within motorsport. All of this suggests a major shift could be unfolding behind the scenes, and Ben Sulayem may not remain at the top for much longer. Even so, our main concern continues to be what happens on the track, and we might not get to witness another season as closely contested as the last. What is becoming increasingly evident is that McLaren has reached a high technical level, raising doubts about how long this advantage will last. The upcoming inspection in Barcelona, focused on the front wings, is being eagerly awaited, but many believe the current gap is too wide to close quickly, and that the MCL 39 will remain ahead of the rest of the field. The question now is how other teams will respond with upgrades that allow them to catch up to McLaren. Last year, both McLaren and Ferrari benefited from Red Bull's development setbacks after the Miami Grand Prix, which made it easier for them to close the gap. Now, however, the momentum is clearly on McLaren's side, and this could lead to a less competitive season. Horner acknowledges that McLaren's main strength lies in their tire management, something that must be studied closely. Expanding on this point, the British team principal was self-critical, saying that McLaren currently has the standout car, comparing their current edge to the advantage Red Bull enjoyed in past season. He praised the team for their excellent temperature control of the compounds, especially at the end of the stint with medium tires, where they seemed the most effective. That is the area, he said, where Red Bull must focus. He also mentioned that possible brake issues during the race may have worsened their situation, and that this must be properly analyzed. In addition to the federation's requirement that accusations be formally registered and deducted from the team's budget, McLaren also criticized their rivals for constantly complaining in public. For a long time, the narrative has been that Max Verstappen, due to weak performances from his teammates, is extracting the absolute maximum from the car and outperforming its true capabilities. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, completely rejects this narrative. According to him, the gap between teams is not as large as people claim. While McLaren is currently the best team, the margin is not that significant, which is also clear during qualifying sessions. Stella went further, stating that Red Bull is exceptional at building fast cars, operating them with precision, and creating favorable storylines. They seize every opportunity to stay ahead. At times, they create the illusion that they are performing miracles, as if others are supposed to dominate every session. But this perception comes from rival teams, and is something McLaren chooses to ignore. When they look inward, they analyze the data, identify areas to improve, and acknowledge that there is still room for growth. Stella said that when he observes the facts, he sees consistent performances from both Lando and Oscar. He also praised Red Bull's ability to manage off-track matters and their strategies beyond racing itself. Taking all of this into account, the Austrian team may find itself in a complicated position, especially considering Verstappen's uncertain future. The current four-time world champion is reportedly exploring options outside of Red Bull if a suitable opportunity presents itself. For that to happen, he would need to be outside the top 3 in the drivers' standing. Therefore, the team must do everything possible to keep the RB21 competitive, including leveraging strategies like these public accusations. And what about you? Do you think Ben Sulayem's proposal to penalize teams for baseless protests is fair? And more importantly, where do you think this entire situation is headed? Share your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to check out the video that is now appearing on your screen.